Accepting the growth, be gracious to take. Get ready, set, go. Growth mindset, for sure it's a blessing. Mistakes we make build neural connections. Purely refreshing, cure the infection. Please the mistakes are surely expected. We gotta stick with the problem until we solve it. The word perseverance is what we call it. Power in mistakes. Only how hard you try. Grace is given when we pray.
All right. Today, I'm excited. I'm always excited, man, to do this part of the day because, that's what I like to do. I like to help young people be successful. And I've helped a lot of kids, man. I got kids that I work with that are in the NBA. I got kids that I work with that are in the NFL. I got a kid that I work with that's in professional baseball. Okay? So I've always helped kids, man. I help kids go to college. I've helped young people be successful in life and in other endeavors. And that's what I like to do. That's what I like to do because, when I was coming up, it was tough for people that lived in the community that I lived in because, we were economically challenged. We didn't always have the finances to do certain things. We didn't always have the best behavior. And so because we had all these economic challenges, life was pretty tough for us at times. And so, I had men, coaches, and people at Fulton High. That's where I went to, Fulton High in Atlanta. And we had coaches, man, that took us under their wing and treated us like they treat their own children. Okay? And so that's why I'm inspired to do what I do. All right? So today we're going to talk more about how to resolve this conflict. And again, we know that the conflict is a problem. And I want to give you guys an example of how we deal with each other here. Based on the news article that we saw a couple of days ago that said DeKalb County, one of the things that we're facing is behavior problems, okay, and the poverty level. We can't do nothing about really the poverty at times, but we can do something about the behavior incidents that we have. And I want to give you just an example. This morning, I come to work, and there's a young lady that's going out of this back door, and there's a group of young people trying to come in the back door. Okay, so I had to write it down because my memory, so if you got a bad memory, don't be too frustrated because I have one too, and I'm an old man. So I had to write it down. Student 1, she's at the door, right? The other student is trying to get in. And she says, "You can't come this way." And you know what? It's not what she said. It's how she said it. "You can't come this way." And the young lady that was outside of the door, she responded and she said, "Why can't I come?" And she was not as aggressive as the first little girl, but still aggressive because she had already gotten on the defensive. And then it went on, she asked why she can't come. And she, she told her, "Because this is not the right way to come, and you know that." Just like that, and she got more aggressive. Okay? And the student that was outside of the door, she stormed away from the door, and you could tell she was angry. Okay? What happened in that situation?
I think what happened was she had went to the other door. She had went to the front office and got in. And the other girl probably went upstairs and got it and went to go to the principal.
Okay, yeah.
I think when she ran away, I think she was like angry, and I think that the other girl, I think she started like an argument, because when the other girl said that she couldn't find her, she should have just went away. They both, the other girl couldn't come there, and then instead,
Right.
so they both should have went to the office.
Right.
And then
Now,
they started to fight.
Okay, one more. Just bit.
I think she was mad at somebody else and she blamed her anger on somebody else. But both of them aren't supposed to go over that way because they have a dope stain on the outer part of the building. So if somebody goes down that way, you're not going to know.
Okay. Now, this is what I propose to you guys is that sometimes you guys probably don't even realize it. It's probably something that you do subconscious. But the way that you talk to each other tells me that you have a problem with communicating. Communicating. Okay? Because now, I'm going to tell you, the girl that was inside the building, she was not wrong because students don't come through that door. But it's the way that you say things to people. Because she said it so nasty and so violently, it caused the other young lady to get upset as well. Okay? And that's what I want to talk about when we're talking about conflict resolution. What do we do before it even get to the point where it leads to everybody getting upset and we fight? Okay? Because if she would have did it this way, if she would have said, I can't let you in this door because this is not the way we're supposed to go. Okay? Do you think girl number 2 would have got all upset about it?
No, she would have been like, okay, I'm sorry, I know.
Right.
Because she probably was right.
Right. Yes.
And then she probably had went to the front and
She would have went. She probably would have went the way that she should go. Okay. Right. But listen though. It depends on how she said it though. If you say it in a nice way, that's the thing that I want to get to you guys, is that we have to learn how to communicate better to each other. Because she was totally right, but it was just the way that she said things to get the other young lady riled up. Okay? And that's how, again, like I was talking about yesterday, that's how most fights at this school happens, because of the way that we communicate with each other. Okay? And so that's why this is important, understanding conflict. Okay, so now, yesterday we started looking at this because when we talk about conflict resolution, you know, it's a psychological thing that we go through. Okay? We all going to have conflict. We can't avoid it. We can't avoid conflict. It happens. Okay? And we're going to be faced with that for the majority of our life. Okay? So, we're going to look at this little tree right here. What happens when I get upset? Okay, one of the things that happens is we have two, the amygdalas. We have two, one on each side of the brain. And we already, some of these guys, because we already discussed the brain, we already know that we have these two things on each side of our brain, and whenever, you know, we're faced with some conflict, or whenever we're faced with some pressure, if I can get this down. Okay, when a threat is perceived, you know, this thing, it sends a signal to your brain, and that signal tells your brain to release some adrenaline. Okay, and that adrenaline puts you into what we call fight or flight. Okay, anybody in here remember when we talk about fight or flight? Fight or flight?
I don't know. Nope.
Okay. Well, we talk about that in here for mindset. Whenever you are faced with a threat, like, you know, I remember telling them a while back that I remember when I was young, and it was me and my cousin and my brother, and we was going to my aunt's house. The neighbor had this big, huge German Shepherd, and the German Shepherd somehow got loose. And so when we was, you know, coming just in the yard, he started running at us. And I turned around, I didn't have on any shoes, and I turned around and I started just running. Now, normally, my brother and my cousin, they're way faster than me. But on that particular day, I was the fastest one. And all I heard them do was laugh. They were saying, Eric, all we saw was smoke coming from your feet. But in situations like that, when we're scared, when we're nervous, our body goes into that fight or flight mode. Okay? And it sends those chemicals that determine, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to run? Are we going to try to fight it? You know, which way? What did I do?
Right.
I got out. I wasn't going to try to fight a German Shepherd, man. And I was, you know, I probably was about your guys' age, so the German Shepherd was way bigger than me. You know, I wasn't the size that I was now. So that's what we go. We go into that fight or flight. You know, we automatically go on to the defensive. And that's what happened when that young lady, when she used the tone of voice that she did use, it caused her to get defensive. And that's what's happening. We keep doing things to make everybody else, the person that we're talking to put them on the defensive. And whenever we put somebody on the defensive, guess what they're going to do? They're going to come out jabbing. They're going to come out jabbing, you know. Right. That's right. Absolutely. That's not just students. That's adults as well. We all have that trigger that when we're threatened with something, it's going to send us into that fight or flight. All right? And believe it or not, that's why I've been so successful being in a classroom where kids have some extreme behavior issues, is because I don't respond that way to the most part. To the most part, I'm able to remain calm. Okay? Because that's just the way that I'm built. For other people, though, we have to learn that. All right? So that's what's happening. We get upset and we get angry, and then these chemicals are released in our brain, and it puts us into that fight or flight. Now, somebody tell me, when you get upset, what happens? Because that's one of the things when you do conflict resolution, you have to recognize your body. You have to recognize when you get upset, when you get frustrated. So now I want to ask this question. What are some of the things that you notice about yourself when you get upset? Let me start here. He had his hand raised first. Yep.
When I get upset, I want to fight. That's pretty much it.
Okay. But what are some of the, you know, I'm just talking about some of the emotions, some of the things that happen with your body that you notice. Yes.
Sometimes, like some people talk about it, or when they hit me, I start to get angry, and sometimes I just don't want to fight, and sometimes I do.
Okay.
It
Now.
depends how bad they are.
Okay. Now think about this, because this is what you guys are going to have to get in the habit of doing. You had something? Okay. Go ahead.
When I get mad, like I'm pretty much when I get to fight, and somebody hit me or push me, my vein, anytime I put my feet like this, my vein pop up.
See, that's what I'm saying. His body, sit down for a minute, his body starts reacting, and that's what happens a lot of times. Our body starts reacting. Sometimes our heart starts to beat faster. Okay, yeah. The palm of our hand sometimes gets sweaty. Right? So things are happening in our body. And some people's face just turn red. You know, we start clenching that fist. Right? So those are the things that we have to recognize. We have to recognize those signs that tell us that we are getting angry. Okay? And so that's one of the things that I hope that you guys can do. I hope that you can practice, pay attention to some of the signs that tell you when you're angry. Okay? We got to pay attention to those things, because that's going to be the key to us resolving the conflict that we have. All right, so these responses are designed to compel you to take action to avoid danger. However, they also prevent you from making complex decisions or seeing things from the other person's perspective. Okay, so hold on. So it's a good thing that our body is built to protect us. You know, God gave us all these things to protect us. But at the same time, you know, when we get so upset, we're not able to make those complex decisions that we need to make. Okay, and that's why you see people sometimes when they get angry and they make that decision and they react before they give themselves a chance to think, they end up where? In jail, end up in trouble, suspended from school. Okay, you end up sitting in there talking to Miss Hall or Miss Thurman.
Who is Miss Hall?
You know, somebody like that, the principal.
I never seen
You know
her.
who Miss Thurman
Okay.
is? She right there.
That's the
Right.
sister of one over there.
Right. But the bottom line is,
She's the sister.
right. But the bottom line, guys, let's not get off topic right there. But the bottom line is, when we have to go see one of them, that means that we have gotten in some trouble. Yes, E.
So like, what if you get something like, say if somebody push you, and you just don't do nothing, and you just walk away,
Right.
and the next time somebody push you, you walk away, and the next time people just keep talking about you over and over again, and you're not getting angry. What happens?
Right. See, now this is my thing, E. If somebody push you, man, you have to tell somebody. You have to
what
let the
if
teacher know.
what if they do tell them and they just keep doing it?
You gotta hold your anger.
Well, hold on.
But
Listen.
what if
Let me answer this. You make a good point. If that teacher does not do something, man, to me, you need to either talk to one of the assistant principals, you need to talk to the counselor, because the teacher should react to that. If somebody push you, okay, now, and I'm not saying everything is done the right way, but when you do what you're supposed to do, then the teacher, the onus is on us to do what we're supposed to do, because I can guarantee you, if one of my students come in here and tell me that somebody, pushed them and they walked away from it, and then, I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to make sure that that student who did that understands that that's not going to happen again.
I know,
Okay?
but let's say if the first person pushed you to the teacher, and they just keep doing it, and one time they just get suspended, and the next person keep doing it, like one of their friends or something, and they tell them to do it, what do you do after that? And you just keep holding up your anger. And what if it just pop out one day that you get in trouble?
Well, again, man, I'm hoping.
You can't hold it.
Well, I'm hoping. Now, that's all. Those are situations, though, E, that don't really happen because, number one, very few people walk away here. And you know that. Most of the time.
Old school people just used to be doing that, and
Right.
one
I
time
walk away.
when it happened, one of these students got in trouble, and he almost killed the kid.
Okay. Now, but let's focus on this, though, the walking away part, because to be honest with you, most students here don't do the walking away part. Okay? They don't.
When I'm not there anymore.
But let's listen to what I'm saying. Most students don't. If more students was to do what you're talking about, then it'll be less fights. But most students don't even get to that point. Okay? So you make a great point. You make a great point. But let me get to this, because these are some things that you can do when you get upset. This is keeping your cool when faced with a conflict. Okay? These are some things that you can do. Here are 6 mindful approaches to use when you find yourself on the cusp of conflict. Okay, guys, we need to listen to this. All right, number 1, taking a deep breath, because remember, what did I say the first thing? When you get angry, what starts happening?
Your heart starts beating.
Your heart start beating.
Your heart starts beating fast. So if you take some deep breaths, what is taking a deep breath going to do?
It's going to calm you down, and it's going to make your heart stop.
It's going to slow down your heart rate. Good job, guys. It's going to slow down your heart rate. So the first thing you want to do when you get upset, E, is you want to take some deep breaths. Okay? Slow your heart rhythm down. All right? Let's get that done first. And number 2, we want to focus on our body, because remember, some things happen and we know when we're getting upset, right? When we start clenching the fists, balling the fists, that tells us that we're what?
Angry.
We're angry. And so we have to pay attention to that. We have to pay attention to our body. Concentrate on the physical sensations that arise in your body in order to begin mindful change in them. Okay? You want to relax your shoulders, You want to open your hands because posture is everything. You know, when you're getting upset, and the main thing is you want to relax. And so getting in that relaxing posture will help you. And this is another thing, actively listen. Actively listen. A lot of times we end up getting in a fight. I've talked to a lot of kids before they've gotten into a fight, right? And my thing is I pull them in the same room together and I try to get down to the bottom of why they're fighting. You know what I find out most of the time, a high percentage of times?
Talking about each other.
Well, a lot of times though you're right, but a lot of times it's confusion because they misunderstood what the other person said. Okay, why do you think they misunderstood what the other person said?
Because they're probably just rushing the fight.
Because we don't do what?
Think. Listen.
Actively listen. Okay, and this is what this is. The only way to really settle disputes is to listen what?
Carefully.
Carefully to what is being said. If you are only paying attention in order to retaliate, then you aren't really listening at all. So listening to the other person, that's the key. Listening to the other person. Actively listen. All right? And then number 4. We want to ask the question. Ask open-ended questions. All right? Ask open-ended questions. All right? What are open-ended questions? What was that?
Open-ended questions.
Yep, put that down. What's open-ended question?
Opening question is about opening question.
Okay. Right, you have to really think about your response when it's an open-ended question. Because a closed-ended question only requires you to do what? Answer what? Yeah. Yes or no? One-word answer. Okay? Like when I say, what color is your shirt, Eric? Blue. One-word answer. Okay? So that's what we call a closed-ended question. But we want to ask open-ended questions so we can let people get their feelings. And that's not what we do. Okay? Use open-ended questions to avoid making other people feel defensive. If you want to avoid argument responses, it is best to ask questions that invite them to speak honestly. Okay? Alright. And 5, we want to consciously lower your voice. That's what I'm talking about. When we communicate with each other, we got to make sure that we're using a low tone of voice, because if we lose a low tone of voice, that is non-aggressive. Okay? And normally when you're non-aggressive, you get a better response from people. Okay? Just like this morning when the girl said, you can't come in here. When she yelled and said it that way, she already put her on the defensive. But if she would have came in and said, we can't use this door right here, I promise you, she probably would have got a better response. Okay? And the last one is to let it go. To let it go. Because that's what comes into play when you're focused, when you're goal-oriented. To be people like some of the famous people that you know, you have to be able to let stuff go. And the way we do that is we focus on our goals. And your goal should be, hold on, your goal should be doing what? Making sure that we get close to this as possible.